It usually starts with a sound you can ignore. A slow, dry tearing against the quiet of the room, a glance toward the couch, and there it is again, those fresh pale lines where the fabric used to look untouched. You stand there for a moment, staring at the damage, and somehow it feels personal. Not just ruined furniture, but a message written directly into your home. You ask the same question so many cat owners ask in frustration. Why does my cat keep doing this? At first, it's easy to think in human terms. A bad habit that needs to be corrected. Maybe you reach for a spray bottle. Maybe you raise your voice. Maybe you cover the spot, move the cat, or try to make the couch unpleasant enough that the behavior will stop. But cats do not live by our rules, and they do not read punishment the way we hope they will. To a cat, the couch is not a moral issue. It is a surface, a signal, a place carrying meaning we often never notice. And that is where the story changes, because the scratches are not random. They are written in instinct, in tension, in territory, in the quiet language of a creature whose body and mind are always speaking. When a cat stretches high and sinks its claws into a chair arm or a sofa corner, it is not only scratching. It is waking up the muscles, releasing energy, leaving scent, claiming space, and saying, in the only way it knows how, I am here. Somewhere in a living room not so different from yours, an owner once stood beside a torn sofa with crossed arms and a tired heart. I don't understand you, he muttered to the cat sitting calmly nearby, as if the damage had nothing to do with the animal's inner world. But of course it did. The sofa had become a story he had not learned to read, and once you begin to read it, everything shifts. The frustration softens. The problem becomes less about disobedience and more about communication. You stop asking, how do I make this stop? And start asking, what is my cat trying to tell me? That question opens a door, because behind every claw mark there may be a need for stretching, for relief, for marking, for safety. Behind every shredded corner, there may be a cat simply trying to make sense of its world. If you have ever found yourself staring at a scratched couch and wondering what on earth is going through your cat's mind, you are not alone. And what you discover next may change the way you see not only the scratching, but your cat itself. At first, she thought the scratch marks were an accident of habit, the kind of thing a cat did when it was bored, or stubborn, or simply being impossible. The sofa had once been a warm, elegant center of the living room, a place for quiet evenings and tired legs and long conversations. But over time, its surface began to fray in the same place, then another, until the damage seemed almost intentional, as if the cat were choosing that one piece of furniture to make a point. She tried everything she could think of. A spray that smelled sharp and citrusy. A firm boy. A clap of the hands. One afternoon, in a moment of frustration she later regretted, she even pointed at the ruined cushion and said, "Why are you doing this?" The cat only blinked, calm as a monk, then turned away with that maddening softness cats have when they are not the least bit interested in our outrage. What she didn't see, not yet, was that the couch was never the true target. It was the stage. Cats scratch with their whole bodies, not just their claws. They stretch, press, reach, and pull, waking muscles that have been folded too long in rest. They scratch when they rise, when they enter a room, when they feel the need to leave a message behind. To a human eye, it looks like damage. To a cat, it can be closer to a signature. A way of saying, I was here. This matters to me. This space is mine too. And once you begin to understand that, the story changes. The woman started noticing other moments she had missed before. The cat scratched after watching birds at the window. He scratched when guests came over. He scratched after a nap, after a tense noise in the hallway, after the household felt different somehow. It was never random. It was a language of pressure and release, of confidence and reassurance, of instinct trying to settle itself against an environment that humans had built but cats still had to enter it. That realization did, excuse the shredded fabric, but it softened her anger. She stopped asking, "How do I stop this, Nan?" and started asking, "What is he needing here?" And that question opened a door, because when behavior has meaning, there is always something underneath it. A texture he prefers, a location that feels safer, a height that lets him stretch safe, a place close enough to the family, but not in the middle of their feet. One clue led to another, like following paw prints across a dark hallway toward a light already waiting. And once she saw that, she could no longer look at the ruined sofa as a battle. She began to see it as an invitation to understand what her cat had been trying to say all along. At first, Marta believed the couch was the enemy. Every fresh tear in the fabric felt like a small betrayal, as if her cat, Nico, had chosen this one piece of furniture to declare war. She tried everything people suggested in passing conversations and online comments. A bitter spray that left the room smelling like regret, a firm voice that made her feel cruel, even a clap of the hands that startled Nico into a low, offended retreat. But each morning, there it was again. A new line, a deeper mark, a silent message written in thread and fiber. Then one evening, while Nico stretched beside the window, Marta noticed something she had missed before. He didn't scratch the sofa with fury. He scratched it with purpose. His front legs extended like a dancer waking from sleep, his shoulders shifting, his body pulling long and low, as if the act itself were a language older than words. He wasn't destroying anything. He was doing what cats have always done, waking the body, easing tension, leaving behind a signal only another cat would immediately understand. That small realization changed the air in the room. Marta remembered a veterinarian once saying that cats don't just scratch to sharpen claws. They scratch to speak. They mark with scent, with visual signs, with presence. The couch had become more than a place to sit. In Nico's mind, it had become part of his world, something worth claiming, something worth claiming. And maybe, Marta thought, the problem was never that he ignored the rules. Maybe the rules had simply been written in the wrong language. So she stopped asking, "How do I make him quit?" and began asking, "What is he trying to tell me?" That question led her to a simple post near the sofa, then to a taller one by the window, then to a rougher texture that Nico chose almost immediately, as if he had been waiting for someone to listen. The change was not instant, but it was honest. Each small adjustment felt like an apology made to instinct itself. And once she began to understand the message behind the marks, the frustration softened into curiosity. If your cat keeps returning to the couch, what is he really asking for? And more importantly, what if the answer has been sitting right there in front of you all along? At first, Maria thought her cat was punishing her. Every morning, there it was again. The corner of the living room sofa pulled into pale threads, the fabric frayed like an old wound that refused to close. She would stand in the quiet house with a cup of coffee gone cold in her hand and look at Luna, her gray tabby, sitting nearby with those calm, unreadable eyes. "Why do you keep doing this?" She whispered more than once, as if the answer might finally rise from the dust and claw marks. So she tried what so many people try. A spray that promised protection, a firm voice, a clap of her hands. Once, in a moment of frustration she regretted almost immediately, she even shut Luna out of the room. But the scratching continued. Not out of spite, not because Luna was disobedient. It was as if the behavior lived deeper than discipline, deeper than words. One afternoon, Maria spoke to an older woman at the vet clinic, someone who had the patient way of listening without rushing to fix. The woman smiled and said, "Your cat is not trying to destroy your sofa. She's trying to say something with it." That sentence followed Maria home, like a small bell in the mind. She began to watch more closely. Luna scratched after naps, stretching her body long and slow, as though waking every muscle from sleep. She scratched near the window when neighborhood cats passed by, leaving invisible messages in the air. She scratched the sofa not because it was valuable to Maria, but because it stood in a place that mattered in Luna's world. Central, familiar, charged with scent and presence. What looked like rebellion was actually ritual, release, language. And once Maria understood that, the room changed. The sofa was no longer the enemy. Luna was no longer the problem. The question became simpler and somehow more profound. What does my cat need to express? And how can I make space for it without losing the home we share? If you've ever watched your own cat ignore the beautiful scratcher you bought and choose the arm of the couch instead, you already know how confusing this can feel. But there is a reason behind that choice, and it is not random. It has to do with texture, height, stability, and something even deeper than preference. Because when a cat scratches, it is not just sharpening claws. It is writing on the world. And the next part of that story may reveal why the wrong scratcher fails, while the right one can change everything. At first, Elena thought the sofa was the enemy. It sat there in the living room like a victim of a crime she could not prevent. Its armrest torn open in pale threads, its corners frayed by the patient violence of claws. Every morning she would see the damage and feel the same wave of irritation rise in her chest. Why does he keep doing this? She asked the empty room, as if her cat, Milo, might suddenly confess. So she tried what many people try. A spray from the pet store. A sharper voice. A clap of the hands when she caught him in the act. For a day or two, Milo would pause, stare at her with those wide amber eyes, and walk away. But by evening, he always returned. Not out of defiance, not out of spite, but because the need beneath the behavior had never been addressed. The scratching simply moved to another place, another surface, another moment. Then one afternoon, Elena watched him after a nap. He rose slowly, arched his back, extended his front legs, and pressed his paws into the sofa with calm concentration. There was no guilt in him, no rebellion, only relief. The motion looked less like destruction and more like a ritual, as old as the species itself. She stood there, suddenly quiet, and the room seemed to change shape around that realization. The couch was not the issue, it was only the canvas. When she began to understand that, everything softened. She noticed how Milo scratched after waking, after hearing a strange sound at the window, after she returned home late from the market. The behavior wasn't. It was a language of transition, of tension, of territory. A way of saying, I am here. This matters. This is mine. And in that language, the sofa had become the most convenient page. So Elena replaced punishment with observation. She brought home a tall scratcher with a rough texture, placed it where Milo naturally passed each day, and dusted it lightly with catnip. At first, he ignored it, as if testing her sincerity. Then one morning he stretched against it, claws catching the surface with unmistakable satisfaction, and the old battle lost its shape. What had once felt like disobedience revealed itself as instruction. If this feels familiar, maybe the real question is not why your cat scratches, but what your cat is trying to protect, release, or claim. And once you begin to see that, you may find there is still one deeper piece of the puzzle waiting to be understood. In the end, the story of the scratched couch was never really about a couch. It was about a language spoken quietly by a creature that does not apologize for being what it is. The woman in the story finally saw that. She stood in the living room one evening, the light soft on the worn arm of the sofa, and instead of feeling anger, she felt something closer to understanding. Her cat moved beside the furniture, stretched long through his spine, pressed his paws into the fabric, and left behind the same deliberate marks as always. But now those marks looked different. They were no longer a challenge. They were a message. She had tried everything the human world often reaches for first. The spray bottle, the stern voice, the frustration that rises when love and property collide. Yet none of that had reached the real reason behind the behavior. The cat had not been trying to ruin her home. He had been trying to live in it, to stretch, to release energy, to say, I was here. This matters to me. You matter to me. My world is here, and I need to leave my place in it. And once she understood that, the whole atmosphere changed. She placed a sturdy scratcher near the window where sunlight pooled in the morning. She chose a texture that welcomed the claws instead of resisting them. She stopped treating the behavior like disobedience and started treating it like communication. Slowly, almost miraculously, the cat began using the new post, then returning to it again and again, as if relieved that someone had finally listened. That is the quiet wisdom cats offer us if we are willing to hear it. They do not ask us to become perfect. They ask us to become attentive. So if your cat is scratching the sofa, the bed, the rug, or even that scratcher you bought with such hope, pause before you judge the act. Ask what your cat may be saying beneath it. Ask what need is asking to be seen. And if this story helped you look at your cat a little differently, give it a quiet like, share your biggest scratch mystery in the comments, and subscribe for more ways to understand the hidden psychology behind the cats we live with.